Fernando Alonso, because he was recently asked about his future in Formula One. And he had this to say. He said, when you race for many years, obviously you start breaking records. But I think the only thing that matters is to win and to break the record of championships. At the moment, that's probably unreachable because 7 of Michael and 7 of Hamilton are out of the possibility. But that will be the aim ultimately. So, Sam, realistically, given Alonso's age and that he's only on 2 championships versus the 7 of Hamilton and Schumacher, I think the question turns to really, what is there left for Alonso to achieve in Formula One? What's realistic between now and whenever the point is that he retires?
Did you notice that Ben's on first name terms with Michael? Everyone else got surnamed.
I was just quoting Alonso, man.
Oh, yeah, sure.
That's what we all say.
What's left to achieve for Fernando Alonso? Well, Meme King.
He's already done that.
He's on his way quite firmly, isn't he? He's trolling everyone as it goes. Yeah, I mean, I absolutely love this competitive enthusiasm that Fernando Alonso brings. He is the oldest man on the grid. He is setting records for, oldest podium. Well, it's not oldest podiums, but you know what I mean. He's going the right way. And he's still putting in performances that are top 5% on the grid, you'd say. There's only a few drivers realistically that are regularly outperforming him, the likes of Verstappen, being one of them. So it's no mean feat what he's achieving. And I love that he's still looking at the sport in a I want to achieve more kind of way, because I feel like when that dies, then what's really the point? We saw it a little bit with Kimi Räikkönen, I feel like, where it just became a bit of a hobby, bit of a paycheck that allowed him to keep doing things that he wanted to do, which, I understand, but Kimi was once one of the fastest people in a race car, whereas I feel like Fernando Alonso still always wants to be one of the fastest people in a race car, and he cares so much about being the absolute best of the best. You can hear that in every race that he's in. Every single radio message we hear, it's either, I'm frustrated because I'm not at the front, or Carlos Sainz is punting me round, or I'm so...
Don't.
I knew it.
We're not. No.
Hold on. Ooh. I've just got the rod out. Oh, he's bitten, folks. We've got a big one.
We've got a nibble here, folks.
Nibble, more like a living feast. Anyway.
I'm okay.
So, yeah, and then when he does do well, you hear about the move he did at Bahrain, that radio message, which we're all still quoting, yes, bye-bye. Like, it's iconic, right? He cares so much, and he does not let it, he doesn't hide it away. He doesn't push it down deep inside him. He's so happy to come out and say these things because it means the world to him. And I think almost out of everyone on the grid, being fast, gotta go fast, and being number one is more important to him, maybe at this moment, than anyone else on that grid. I think if he were to win the world title again, I actually think he might show more elation than someone winning it for the first time if they did it now. That's how much I think it needs. Yeah, he has to come up with a new dance as well.
I'm sure he would.
The 3-time world champ.
The 3-time world champ.
Not seen Verstappen do the 2-time world champ dance yet. I'm a bit annoyed.
Disappointing. It's right within Verstappen's wheelhouse as well, given his personality.
That's real.
He's a mover. He's a mover.
And a shaker.
This podcast gets worse every week.
Correct.
Without fail. In terms of Alonso and championships and wins, Sam, do you think that Fernando Alonso is in a position now in his career where it's just every win and every podium that comes about is an added bonus? Or do you think that he's still striving for that title? Is that still something he needs from his career?
I think that if you were to give Fernando Alonso even a sniff, and I literally mean the faintest whiff of a potential race-winning car, where every single race weekend he turned up to, if he was on his A game, he could, in theory, win a race. He would not let that slip. I think if you gave him a chance at a championship, that would be his sole focus, week in, week out. I don't think one race win is enough for him. I'm sure on the surface he'd love it, and I'm sure he'd celebrate it and be a very happy boy. But I know he wants another title. He's been so close on so many occasions, literally mere points away, multiple times. I think if you changed, what was it, like 3 or 4 results across his whole career, he'd be like a 5 or 6-time world champion.
I think he's like 4 points away from being a 4-time world champ or something ridiculous.
Yeah, and then I think it's a few more points away from being like a 5 or 6-time world champion. It's a little bit silly how successful he is being, but yet not successful enough. The bloke would take a championship any day of the week, and I think you give him a sniff, he'll be straight in there to take it.
it feels like to an extent that's kind of already the approach that he has, but I feel like he's resigned to the fact that the Red Bull is quite obviously a faster car than his at the moment. So it feels as if Alonso's in a headspace of, I need to do whatever I can to beat anyone that isn't a Red Bull. So I know that if Red Bull mess up, I'm there to take the win. It's almost like if I can beat everyone else, I'm satisfied with that performance, and whatever happens in front of me with Perez and Verstappen is out of my control to an extent. I'm not sure.
Third ever again.
He'll just be third forever.
He will
That's his
always
first.
be third.
Yeah.
Even when a potential second was available at Australia.
Yeah.
Hamilton can have that. I'll have third.
Doesn't
need it.
second. Don't give me second.
What's your thoughts on that quote, Harry? Do you think that Alonso still has a lot to give Formula One? Is there still championships in his future? What's realistic between now and the end of his career?
I think the quote itself is one of the most Fernando Alonso things I've ever read in my entire life.
Correct.
Probably out of reach, Fernando.
Probably.
But there's still a chance.
In his mind,
Yes, there is.
I think probably actually means about 4%. I think 96% still in reach.
Yeah. Oh man, I actually fully laughed out loud when I read that comment. I don't know why I did that.
Very
With
aggressive.
my hand. Laughed out loud.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, look, it's going to be very tough for him to win another championship, let alone another 5. But yeah, with what Sam said, I think there's a few wins on the card for Alonso. If this year, as you say, as long as he's in that position, always being third, and then when the Red Bulls mess up,
We've seen it happen before.
he'll be there. So I think that's his aim for this year. And if the development continues with the Aston Martin and next year it's even better, then maybe he can steal a few wins. I think that's probably the most realistic target for him now, a championship, as much as I'd love to see it. I mean, I know we joke, Alonso will have to retire at some point.
Nope. I'll retire before Alonso.
He will have to stop, and he can't keep doing this. He hasn't really dropped off that much. Probably only his qualifying pace, I'd say, is the thing that's dropped off. Everything else, he's still the same.
Do you think he still could win a title if like the Red Bull and the Aston were equal? Do you think he's still got it in him? Because you're the number one in the fan club.
I am. Verstappen's very good,
He is.
and I think
Yeah, it's a good
Alonso
shout,
would
that.
be and another zinger from me. Alonso would be the most menacing menace.
I think a different side of him would come out. Again, we see the old Fernando.
It would be. I mean, we've seen glimpses of it with, as I say, with the yes, bye bye. But it would be just a menace. Maybe that could make the difference if there's an equal fight between him and a Verstappen and a Hamilton. I don't know, but
Don't bring Lewis into this. Good
sorry,
Lord,
make it
the
ugly.
world can't deal with that.
could you imagine?
All three of them.
What? I reckon none of them would finish that many races. They just run into each other all the time.
Sergio Perez is mopping out with George
Yeah,
Russell.
Gasly wins.
Actually, to be fair, I think Alonso would be smarter. Hamilton and Verstappen would take each other out. Alonso wins. That's where I'm
Russell,
going.
his hands on his hips, going crikey at the end of each race.
Blimey. So yeah, look, it'd be great to see him in a championship fight, and I think, as I say, I think he'd be a right nuisance. Yeah, a few wins. It's hard to see because I think his Aston deal is only 2 years long. I don't know how old he would be by the end of that, but is he going to extend it again? Who knows?
Yeah, 43 and a half, I think, by the time.
307.
Yeah, that's he's getting on slightly. So who knows if it'll extend past that and whether Aston are going to
5-year deal. 5-year deal.
57. Whether Aston are going to be able to make such another leap that they are now championship contenders when it comes to 2024.
I keep seeing a Red Bull personnel, they might.
They might do. Look, they made a big one this year.
Maybe they'll make Adrian Toohey have a second version of him at their team.
Adrian Toohey. I like that a lot. Anyway.
Goes on package holidays.
The budget version.
I thought you might be proud of that one,
Oh, that's so niche.
Good. It's very British. British niche reference.
British.
British.
Maybe we can coin that.
son.
God, I don't think I finished my point.
No, it was going on.
Couple of wins, probably.
Usually don't.
Off you go.
Good.
Good stuff. To Harry's point here, I absolutely love the fact that Fernando Alonso is not willing to commit to this quote more than probably. It's great. To put it in, he's got 2 championships, and we're talking about whether he could ever get to 7. Bear in mind that if he was to get to 7, I think he would be 47 years old.
He'd have to start winning them
5 on the bounce.
right now.
Come on, Alonso. Let's do it.
Yes, that is presuming he wins this season and doesn't slip up for the next 5 years. And he's still not willing to commit to more than probably. I love it. If there was a spectrum of, let's say one end of the spectrum is George Russell, Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes, who are convinced that they will never get another podium again in their life. And the other end of the spectrum was Fernando Alonso, who still thinks that there's maybe a small sliver of a chance he could win 7 titles. Like, it's just complete opposite ends of that spectrum. And it's a compliment. It's not an insult. I admire that man's self-confidence. I wish I had a tenth of it. I don't, but I wish I did, because he just believes in himself beyond any expectation. It really is great. Realistically, is 7 achievable? Nah, I don't think so. But I tell you what, if you asked Fernando Alonso right now, Fernando, you think you get to 5? He doesn't answer straight away. I think he takes a second. I think he at least pauses before giving his answer. Because again, if you were to ask him that, I don't think he thinks that's out of reach. I really don't.
7's that's just probably, 5's almost definitely.
Well, exactly. So I think the question that needs to be asked is, can he win one more? Can he get to 3? And realistically, I don't think that this season is going to work out for him unless Red Bull fall off a cliff at some point. And to be honest, that might not even be a metaphor. They might literally have to fall off a cliff in order for this to work out for Fernando Alonso. But if it's going to happen, it would have to be next year, I think. Even if he extends it further on than the next year, he is, I think, human. I think he will eventually slow down. I think as much as people probably don't want to hear it, I think he already has, to an extent, slowed down a bit. You reference qualifying pace, quite rightly. It's not what it once was. And it's only going one direction. So I think it needs to happen next season. And honestly, I think it would need to be a dominant Aston Martin car. Because if you're asking me, in a dogfight between him and Max Verstappen, if they had pretty equal cars, I'm taking Max Verstappen in that equation. And quite honestly, if the question was Lewis Hamilton or Fernando Alonso, again, I'm probably going for Lewis Hamilton. Leclerc against Alonso, that might be a close one. But I feel like he needs a dominant car next season to get it done. But you never know. We'll see what happens with Red Bull and whether they are impacted by the cost cap penalty towards the end of this year and going into next year.
Red Bull, can you just let him have one?
Yeah, go on.
Just, we fell off the track again. No, a title, thank you. Oh,
okay.
The car broke down. Alonso's going to win it again. God, gutted. Just one.
I think that will go down really well with Max Verstappen as well. I'm sure he'd let that happen.
I'll tell you what, Max, if you do it, I'll come on another documentary.
That's kind of you.
Yeah, well, don't give my time up for everyone.
Good Lord.